Who could have predicted that Rebecca's big opponent in Universe Zero would be a literal child? Okay, actually, she's an AI, but since she was created around the time Rebecca was about 4 to 5 years old, that makes Helix roughly around 10 to 11, so in the eyes of the world, she does technically fall into the kid category. She definitely ends up acting like one throughout the chapter, throwing a childlike tantrum at Shiki and the professor for ruining her fun with Rebecca. I mentioned it in my last review, but it really seems like Helix's main goal of collecting the Mother Ether for Void has been completely overridden by her increasing desire to play with Rebecca. And this chapter kind of confirms that, as she delegates that goal to one of her many droids, who is very quickly closing in on Pino from the sewers. But just as quickly as she shows up in the panels in this chapter, Feder detects her and Wise immediately ends up destroying her. So yeah, that sneak attack, yeah, it went absolutely nowhere. And how does Helix end up reacting to her plan failing? Does she decide to step in for herself, as she could easily just slow down time for those guarding the ether and steal it from them before they even notice? Nope, no, she just completely ignores it and continues to try to expel Shiki and the Professor from her game so that she can have Rebecca to herself. Because despite gaining sentience and aligning herself with a being hellbent on eradicating all life from the universe, Helix just can't seem to fight her original programming to play with and entertain Rebecca. That is her one and only focus, and to her, her biggest obstacles are currently Shiki and the Professor, because in her eyes, they ruined the game she specifically designed for her so-called best friend. It's all actually kind of sad when you sit down and think about it. I mean, sure, Helix is a known multi-galaxy-wide criminal who is actively working to kill every and all non-robotic life in the universe. But at her core, she's just a kid trying to desperately recapture the fun she once had with her childhood friend, a friend who she was specifically designed to play with, and a friend who at every single turn has rejected her. It really makes me wonder, if back when Rebecca was a kid, if she had just said that she thought Helix's games were fun, would Helix have ended up going down this route? And man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but putting all that into context, I actually kind of feel a little bad for Helix. But you know who has absolutely no remorse for Helix? All three of our heroes, as they immediately go on the attack as soon as the chapter starts. Continuing the fun of the previous chapter by seeing the three decked out in their fantasy RPG gear, playing out their individual roles. And Shiki and Rebecca end up getting weapons that imitate their already existing abilities. For example, Shiki gets a pretty cool looking, powerful, gravity-based sword that allows him to do a lot of the similar attacks that he already does with his gravity ether gear. And despite Rebecca being dressed up as a warrior, which means you would expect her to have some kind of sword or maybe a shield, she ends up just getting her basic dual pistols. Old Man Wise is probably the one with the most out there ability out of the three of them, as he gives himself the ability to basically shoot magic, a far cry from his ether gear ability to manipulate machinery, although I guess if you really stretch the argument, you could probably try to find a way to connect the two. And you know what makes the chapter just a bit cooler? It dropped on the same day that a new game released, one based on exactly the type of game they're imitating, an old school fantasy RPG. And knowing that Hero is a bit of a gamer himself, I can't help but wonder if he planned for this to happen. Anyway, after summoning a giant robotic happy, yes, you heard me right, Helix decides she's had enough of these intruders and decides to change up the games by teleporting them to a Saw-like escape room where Rebecca is tied to a chair and Shiki and the Professor are left tied up in a room that is quickly flooding. But even though Helix does want to kill the two of them, because it is a game, she decides to keep things fair by giving Rebecca the chance to save them. All she has to do is escape from the room before the two end up drowning, which she quickly gets to work to do by escaping from the chair using the clues Helix hid around the room. Now, Rebecca might not be the smartest member of the crew. In fact, she's kind of a complete airhead, basically the exact opposite of Lucy from Fairy Tail. That being said, she is kind of a genius when it comes to games, so I have absolutely no doubt that she'll be able to solve all the puzzles. But with how quickly the room is flooding, it's really hard to believe that she'll be able to get to them in time, as the chapter ends with all but their heads completely submerged before Rebecca even gets out of the chair. There's just no time to make it to them. However, this might actually end up being a good thing, because with time quickly running out, this could finally force Rebecca into unlocking her brand new cat looper powers, where perhaps unlike Helix's fake time freeze, Rebecca actually gets the ability to freeze time, allowing her to be able to solve all the puzzles without having to worry about the two drowning. Or maybe in a shocking twist, it would be revealed that Rebecca is still able to use reverse, which would be the perfect ability for this exact situation, as once she figures out each puzzle, she can just rewind back and save a bunch of time speedrunning through each of them. Honestly, either power would be useful in this moment. We just have to wait and see which one she gets to save the two guys most important to her. Which, speaking of, as the chapter ends, the last scene we get between Shiki and the Professor is the Professor asking Shiki if he is Rebecca's boyfriend, which Shiki ends up denying, but basically all but says that he has feelings for her. Which is much more than we've ever gotten from the Lucy and Natsu ship over in Fairy Tail, and just like that ship, it's been pretty clear since the beginning that Hero is planning to have these two end up together. And seeing as he is not one to shy away from writing romance in his stories, It's only a matter of time before it ends up happening. But anyway, that is it for this review. Once again, it was a fun and exciting chapter, and I cannot wait to see what Hero does for the next one. Anyway, that is it for the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you guys all have a good one.